of the Newton Planning Board, and we will start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, I will appoint Mr. Zielinski as a voting member in Mr. Holland's absence. And I will appoint Ms. Allen as a voting member in Mr. Andrews' absence. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to open the public hearing for Christina R. Curo and Mark G. Roshan of Newton, New Hampshire, for a 4-lot subdivision at 36 Thornell Road, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 6, block 8, lot 7-2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Quintel to do his presentation. The board is going to do any questions that they have to, and when we're all finished with that, then we will open up the floor to the butters. And if you have something to ask, then you come to the podium and state your name, and then you can ask your question to the board, okay? Thank you.
Need the rest of the copies.
I know that you, Mr. Quintel, I know that you have gotten feedback from the planner and the town engineer and the fire department, so I know you will be addressing those questions also.
So, my name is Dennis Quintel, and we have the applicants Christina Curo and Mark Roshan here with us tonight. This is about property map 6, lot 8, lot 7-2, 49 acres. And this property has been before the board in the past. This is a plan that was done, we did in 2017. It was a lot line adjustment. At that point in time, we adjusted a couple of lot lines for Christine's lot and merged this lot here, which is back this way, but fronted on Thornell Road, and that lot was a subdivided lot that was done a long time ago, part of Forrest Reynolds' property. And that lot had been subdivided and, but not built on. So at that time, we wound up merging that with the remaining land here and created the 49-acre lot that we're talking about tonight. So the 49-acre lot that we're talking about tonight, I have outlined in blue here for a part of it, and that's the first sheet. The second sheet shows the second part of it in this area here. And so we're really focusing only on this part of it, and the intent is to subdivide that into 4 lots. The first lot would be putting back the lot that was created before off of Thornell Road here, which that would become same as it was before, lot 687-2, and 2 smaller lots along the frontage of Thornell Road, and then frontage here and here for the remaining land, which will wind up being around 41 acres. So the 2 lots that we're creating here are about an acre and 1.8 acres, over 78,000 square feet. each of those lots, we show the building setback. We show where a well can go, possible well, 4,000 square foot area for a septic system, and show where a house could go and the driveways. Soil test pits were done in the 4,000 square foot area, and a high-intensity soil map was conducted on the property. We have a common driveway for the two lots that are subdivided side by side to minimize the driveway cuts onto Thornell Road. And we show where the bounds are going to be set on the corner lots. So that kind of summarizes that in the first and second sheet, which will be the sheets for recording. And the third sheet would be a site plan. And that site plan shows the grades, contours, grades, and the high-intensity numbers for each soil type. And as you can see, probably see that this area here is a 223CH, and that whole area requires 76,000 square feet according to the high-intensity requirements, and we're over 78,000 on each of those. Lot 7-2 over here is 3 acres. It's 3.5 acres, 155,000 square feet, and the calculations for that only require 81,000 square feet. So we have enough soil on each lot for making the requirements. We show the proposed grades for each of the lots. And on lots 7-2, you can see there's quite a bit of fill that's required for that lot over in here, because it's kind of a steep slope, and in order to get a driveway in there wide enough to meet the requirements, we need to be able to add some fill. And after review from the town engineer, we added notes to show that there's going to be sediment control at the bottom of the slope, and that the slope will be seeded and mulched with hay, and if it's in the wet season, it would have to have some fabric covering the slope so that it would grow and not cause any erosion problems down toward the wetland. The driveway is going to be 20 feet wide and a 10% slope, maximum 10% slope. So I met with the fire chief on this, and their NFPA rules recommendations are for driveways that are longer than 150 feet off the street, that the driveway needs to be 20 feet wide with a turnaround so that fire equipment, emergency equipment can get to the dwelling. And so we meet that requirement, and he's reviewed the plans, and we have no problems with his review. The next sheet, S2, shows a little bit more detail for that lot, for the common driveway. Shows the grades and the slopes and how the profile of the driveway will be sloping away from the edge of pavement of Thornell Road for at least 10 feet, which is a recommendation from the town engineer, and then going up at a slope of no more than 10% there. The angle of the access will be as close to 90 degrees as possible. The site distance, we have a profile of how the site distance would work, and there's over 350 feet in each direction. And some details for erosion or sediment control features there. So I had comments, like I said, from the town engineer, Mike Vignali, and addressed those with the revised plans and sent those to him for further review. And I also have met with Mike Pavero, who's with us tonight, and asked him about his concerns and whatnot, and Thornell Road is under the schedule to be redone as far as paving and grading and whatnot, and the concerns for this section, especially where the common driveway is to address drainage in front of that lot. And in talking to Mike Pavero about that, making a suggestion of possibly putting a catch basin in, upslope from the driveway, and a culvert underneath the driveway, and outletting it down in front of the lot down further. And he made a call to the town engineer and discussed that, and they're gonna actually meet tomorrow out at the site, just to see if that is, they can agree on that being done. So I didn't bother making any drafting at this point in time, but obviously, when they come to an agreement of what they wanna do, then I'll draft what needs to be done and make sure that that gets done as part of the driveway access for this project, and get the town engineer to review it and get his okay on that plan. So that certainly is something that would need to be done as far as some sort of a condition if we get to that point. I'd like to think that the plan is complete enough to accept jurisdiction, and we do have one waiver that needs to be addressed. I did put together a third sheet about questions for the driveway and the site distance for the other driveway. It shows distances in each direction there. Again, over 300 feet site distance, pretty straight down on that curve, kind of curves the other way, so you're basically looking up at a straight plane in each direction, and showing the contours and the profile of the driveway, so, and the construction entrance that would be used on each of the projects, so that they wouldn't track any mud into the street during the construction process. So I just put that together for their review, and also to put in the town file, so that's how that's gonna be done. So I guess at this point in time, I can answer any questions, and then maybe we can discuss accepting jurisdiction and the waiver request.
Okay, Jen?
So my comment is I do actually think the application is complete. There is the one outstanding waiver, which, if not granted, you would need to discuss. The only other comment is that the soil survey, the high-intensity soil survey, was only done on a limited portion of the property. It wasn't done on the larger lot, the 41-acre lot. The board does have discretion to not require the entire lot be surveyed for the high-intensity soil survey. If that determination is something that you feel is adequate, which does seem reasonable in this case, given the size of the lot, then you should make a motion to that effect, that that limited soil survey, where warranted, meets your intent, because they're not currently intending on building, and it is a 41-acre lot that does have adequate septic and well capabilities at this point.
Okay.
So
They-
I would
They would
rec-
need to do that anyway if they were gonna build there and show with the well and the septic and everything.
They have shown the
Right.
well and the septic. That lot, that 41-acre lot is capable of handling a well and a septic
Oh,
system.
okay.
That has been done.
All right, okay.
But we would
Oh, yeah, there
handle the waiver after we take jurisdiction?
Yes.
Yes. So, is there any more board discussion here? Okay. Do I have a motion to take jurisdiction?
So moved.
Second.
Barbara, you do
Yes.
need to appoint any alternates in who
I did.
this- Did she?
Yes, ma'am?
My apologies.
That's okay, but thank you for the reminder. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now we have to address the waiver request. Did
I
you-
have a copy of it here, so I can just read it to you.
Okay, just 1 second, Mr. Quintel. Did you,
I don't know about the procedure, but I have a couple other things that I'd like to mention regarding this. I mean, I don't have to do it now, when I get it on.
Yeah.
sure, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Quintel.
On behalf of the applicants, I'm seeking a reduction in the required escrow account required for the subdivision application as stated in Section D, Schedule of Fees in the Newton, New Hampshire Public Policies and Procedure Manual 2019, seeking to reduce the required $5,000 to $2,000 as there will be no review for a road design. Obviously, there'll be some review by the town engineer, but he's not reviewing a full road, and so we didn't feel as though the $5,000 amount for the NEPA account would be necessary. So we did provide the $2,000, and so that's what the waiver is.
Okay, so how does the board feel about that? Do they feel that that's enough in this instance, and which can always be replenished if it needs to, if it starts
Obviously,
going?
Obviously, yeah.
I think I'd like to hear, seeing that the road agent's here, and this has something sort of to do with him, I'd like to hear his concerns before we vote on the waiver.
That certainly is up to the board.
Okay.
You
Sure.
can wait, so whether you want to hear him now or wait till other
Yeah,
comments.
in case he comes up with something that needs more review.
Sure. Okay, let's let Mr. Pavero come and,
Good evening, Mike Pavero, road agent.
thank you.
We'll only talk specifically about this one, but it's gonna carry on to any other house or subdevelopment reviews you're gonna have in town. One, you guys are aware this is a historical scenic road, and conservation has been notified.
Yes,
Okay.
I
Two,
believe they were supposed to be here.
oh, they were invited and didn't
Yes,
come?
absolutely.
Okay. Two, Thornell, as Dennis just mentioned, is scheduled, it was started to be scheduled this past year for a complete rebuild. I have, and this isn't personal to you guys at all, but I have issues as we've moved along through some of these subdevelopments and multiple houses being built on one road at one time, case in point, Chase Road. There were 7 houses built on that road. And after the development was done, I, with the town, had to go rebuild Chase Road from end to end at the cost of $285,000 to the town. It becomes very problematic because, one, Chase Road was in terrible shape to begin with, known by everybody. Two, there was really, and Mike Vignali and myself both brought it up, that there should have been some allowance put into the 7 houses that helped offset the cost of the construction of that road, knowing it was going to be destroyed. And it was in tough shape to begin with. But it doesn't look good for any of us. When 7 brand-new houses go in, there was no relief to the road construction, and a year afterwards, we spent almost $300,000 rebuilding that road. I don't think anybody would argue that fact. That's just logic. Thornell's in terrible shape. I'm not asking these folks to incur any costs for that, but I think at a bare minimum, and it won't reflect the building cost, we put a $5,000 road bond for every house that's built here or anywhere in town from now on. Because I've played babysitter way too much. Last year up on Hadley, or a year before in Hadley, there was a house built up there. A site contractor that lives in town did the site work. Right out of the gate, they filled the drainage swale. When the building permit was pulled, a driveway permit was never pulled, which is a second problematic problem. Because I don't get the notification until the homeowner or the developer is looking for an occupancy permit. By that time, the damage is already done. So in this case, I made a grave error. I felt bad. They were looking to close on the house. He goes, I didn't know I was supposed to pull a driveway permit. Okay. I signed off on the occupancy permit so they could get bank financing and move into their home. I spent 11 months playing babysitter to get the culvert outside done to what is town specs, with a culvert underneath it and built accordingly. I suck as a babysitter. So from now on, whatever house is built in town, get a $5,000 road bond. It's an insurance policy. It doesn't go on to the cost of the construction of the house. It's just we have something, in this case on Hadley, if I had had the road bond, it wouldn't have taken me 10 or 11 months to get the problem resolved. The bond is the motivation to make it right.
We've done that road bond before.
We
I
have.
think we did that on Heath.
Right, and
Yes.
I won't bring that up, but there's 2 houses being built on Heath right now that I just found out today from a resident calling me that the trucks are going in and out of there with no stabilization pad, and the bonds haven't been pulled. So it's not an isolated case. This happens.
Right.
And it's, honestly, for me, it's frustrating. Because a lot of the times, the damage is already done. And now I have to go and try to rectify the problem. I mean, this is for the benefit of the town. For me, you know, look at, this is what it's gonna break down in Thornell. That road's scheduled to be rebuilt. We'll put $450,000 to $500,000 into that road to build it end to end. We need some assurance that the road will not be damaged
Right.
in any fashion.
Although we can require that bond for when a new subdivision comes before us, you know, for those lots like we did for Heath Street, I don't think we have the authority to do that for individual lots that people are building on, because I don't think that's in the ordinance.
You do not have impact fees, or specifically road impact fees when
Right,
someone
we
is
do have
building-
impact fees, but not road impact
Not
fees.
road impact fees.
Correct.
That's certainly something the town could go through the process of establishing those. They're a little bit difficult to come up with. You can require off-site mitigation or bonds be established for all new houses on existing streets. There needs to be cause, and there may be reasonable justifications for that cause.
Right.
I wouldn't suggest it as a universal policy without going through the motions of understanding what all of the impacts are, and honestly documenting some of the problems to have a good justification for it.
Right.
Whether it should be applied to this situation, I really can't advise you. You certainly legally could do it. It could potentially be challenged.
So let me rebut that. How did you do it on Heath Street? And what was the difference between Heath Street
Because
and
I
Chase
think
Road?
if I'm remembering correctly, I think Heath Street had been repaved not very long
No.
before
No.
that portion.
Well, there was a portion, not that
Right,
portion in
and-
front of
and
it,
I-
because I did Heath Street in 5 phases by the time I got it all done. It took
Okay.
me 5 years to get
I
Heath
am not
Street done.
recollecting under what circumstances, but because there were so many lots involved, I believe that's why we did that. And we had them, if I'm remembering correctly, we had them put it in the deeds, in each of the property deeds, that whoever bought that piece of property and was going to build on it would then need to put a $5,000 road bond on before they started construction.
So when Martin sold the property there, each lot was broken into a separate deed, and you applied it then?
Yes,
What would be the difference on this?
nothing, we could do that.
Say it again? Which
Right,
is
you
fine,
have-
ultimately, that's who I want it to be, as
Right.
on the builder.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But I'm not following the logic. If you were able to do it then based upon deeds, why couldn't you do it now based upon builder?
you mean for other individual pieces of property?
Correct, in any case.
I don't have an answer for that.
That sounds like we can, like in this case, when we make the subdivision,
Okay.
we can make that a condition of granting the subdivision. If the lot already exists and someone builds a house on it, we don't get involved.
Planning board has nothing to do with it if somebody buys a lot and decides to build a house on it. They go to you for a driveway permit, or the state, depending on where it is.
Right.
And then they go to the building department to get the proper permits to build.
So in order for the town to do this on either a subdevelopment or an individual lot, an ordinance has to be passed.
Well, we could
In
do
this
it on a
case,
subdivision.
It's new lots.
For a new
Okay.
subdivision, we could do it.
For an
Any
existing-
existing lots.
An existing lot would have to be an impact fee that would be the town creating an ordinance specific to road impact fees.
And I think that that's through ordinance.
Yep,
And I
it's-
think that it's something that the selectmen have to have an awful lot of calculations for that to figure out.
It's actually done through the planning board, through a zoning ordinance, and then to come up with the fee amount that requires the calculations.
Oh, so it doesn't, you don't need the same sort of calculations that you do for the impact fee for the schools? It's different?
No, it's the same process, it's just that the fees are adopted through the select board, the ordinance is done through the planning board process.
The ordinance gives authority to have an impact fee.
Correct.
And then after that's done, then the selectmen would set the actual dollar amount.
Correct.
Okay.
No, that's fine. As long as there's some method and means to get to the end of that, I'd like to see it followed up.
Okay. The reason why I wanted you to talk first was that's good. I think we can handle that when it comes time to make conditions of approval. Do you have any other concerns about how much engineering needs to get done for this?
No, Dennis showed me this drawing last week. We talked about it for a little while. I voiced my concern, and Mike Vignelli, the town engineer, and I started looking at this 2 years ago, because we knew it was going to come up on the reconstruction schedule. And it's just a matter of there's a tremendous amount of groundwater that comes out of that slope. And we need to capture that and keep it from going underneath the roadway, or the roadway won't survive. So Dennis and I have talked about it. Like Dennis had mentioned, I'm meeting with the town engineer tomorrow to, follow this up so we can start this reconstruction this year. That's it. I mean, it really doesn't impact their specific design here, but it's all going to incorporate into it so we can collect the water. That was it for me.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're saying that, there's a lot of water coming off there, what? The town's gonna pay for all that drainage and stuff going into the swamp? I mean, when you rebuild the road, you're gonna put all the culvert in?
All the culverts except for where it ties into the driveway cuts. That'll be a responsibility of the builder, whoever's gonna put those lots in. But it's gotta, what Mike Vignali and I have to do is come up with the design so that they have a design on how we're gonna tie into what we're doing for drainage.
But all that water, drains into the swamp across the street there and then out to 108?
Well, it doesn't all go to 108. There's a break in the road and it goes both directions. But there's a ton of water that comes out of that hill.
Right, yeah. But the Conservation Committee isn't here today, we have these new stormwater.
In this
Regulations.
case, the stormwater regulations actually don't apply to this project because it's single-family homes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Are there any other comments on the waiver? If not, I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver so that they can, to reduce the NEPR of escrow to $2,000.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mary. Ms. Allen, seconds. All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and then we have the question of the high-intensity soil survey that the board needs to recommend. The board needs to decide if the limited portion that's been surveyed is adequate, or if we're going to accept what we have provided. We don't have to do a waiver, but we should do a motion on that, however we're going to decide.
So,
So for the larger lot, the septic reserve area is right here, the 4,000. and then the well radius is right here. So they have shown that there is adequate space and soils to be able to do a septic system and well.
And you mentioned that they didn't, that basically that whole back piece. Right, no development is planned anywhere near that area. All of the areas that are being impacted by this plan, you have done the soil survey.
The limit of high intensity right here, we don't, limit of the high intensity, we show topo line, beyond that, we didn't go beyond onto the rest of this area. It's just nothing's gonna be done there. Over 40 acres, so I mean.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure that I understood
Right.
what was done and what wasn't done.
If something were to be proposed to be developed on that 40 acres, it is a large piece of property, they would have to come back before the planning board. And if you think that the limited soils is okay for this case, but in a potential subsequent application that was not adequate, at that time, the planning board could say, no, you got to do the whole 41 acres.
Okay.
So you're looking for a motion to decide that the soil survey that was provided is adequate for this subdivision plan?
Right, according to subdivision 8.1.5.K.
That's my motion.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Both of us.
Ms. Allen second.
Before we vote, he got to the podium. You want, I'll
No, you
listen.
can vote. What I'm going to mention won't have any impact on your vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Yes, sir.
Here's my question, and it doesn't just pertain to this one, it pertains to one that we've gone through in the past. There's 40 acres, significant parcel of land. I know they don't have any intention of doing anything with it now, but I have a fear, and that fear is we're going to do drainage calculations and we're going to do drainage work on Thornell Road based upon what we know now. I don't have any crystal ball, but I'm bringing up to you, if that piece of property ever gets developed farther, you are going to dump more money into Thornell Road for drainage. So if we think that that's going to happen, or if there's a potential that that's going to happen, really be nice to know now.
Ms. Rowden?
So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know
Nor do I.
I don't know
And I'm
what
not trying
you're.
to put these guys under pressure. I'm just looking.
plan in my back pocket shows 40 homes.
That would help. That would help.
But if for some reason on that 41 acres, it were to be proposed a cul-de-sac and 8 homes, something
Right.
along those lines.
Yeah, just, yeah.
A road actually being built off of Thornell, they would have to come in with stormwater calculations because then we're beyond just a subdivision for single-family homes. Creation of a road triggers the need to do additional drainage calculations and to not allow any drainage to actually come onto Thornell Road for a subsequent application, not this, if they were to come back to divide up that 41 acres.
Okay, and that's,
So then you would have the drainage, but that's the closest to a crystal ball
That we have.
information that could be
okay.
provided.
No, I just wanted to voice my opinion, and here's why.
I got you.
We've got a couple locations in town, I'm not blaming a soul, but it's frustrating. We've got 2 locations where within 200 feet, I can see 3 cul-de-sacs. So a subdevelopment went in, there's a cul-de-sac. Subdevelopment went in, because the cul-de-sac, subdevelopment came in, and there's a cul-de-sac. I hate cul-de-sacs. I have to plow them. It would have been nice, and I know there's no crystal ball, but it would have been nice at some grand thing that all 3 of them roads got connected and went out,
Right.
tied in roads. I'm just venting,
Okay, you're entitled.
okay?
Thank you very much. Okay. So, we have taken jurisdiction and done the waiver and on the soil survey. Does, and I think we have to open up to the public right about now.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. So, all right, so before the board continues, I'm going to open the floor to abutters. And if you would come up to the podium and identify yourself and your comment or question or whatever, address the board. We'll have the proper person answer you. And try not to repeat. It would be easier for everybody if just one person is saying the same thing. Although I'm sure that you all have a lot of the same concerns.
Good evening. My name is Marcella Vincent. I live at 30 Farnell Road. My husband and I, as a result of this proposed subdivision, are stuck in the middle. I would like to address at least 4 issues we have as concerns as a result of this proposed subdivision. One is safety. Thornell Road, as you know, is a cut-through road between 108 and 125, and 125 to 108. It doesn't matter what time of the day you try to drive out of my driveway, that we are not impacted by vehicles traveling either way, at which point we have almost had several accidents. I leave at 5:30 in the morning to go to work. Even at that time of the morning, it is terrible to try to get out of my driveway with cars coming from 108. Once they round the bend by the farm, they pick up speed. So if I'm even part way out of my driveway, I'm almost into a collision. Even though the road is a mess, it doesn't sway drivers from driving recklessly. A number of times our mailbox has been hit, knocked into our driveway from speeding or distracted drivers losing control of their vehicles. This road is also used by teams of bicyclists training for racing and have encountered speeding motorists and almost run into. Several neighbors walk their dogs, again, almost hit by speeding motorists. The police department have done their best by trying to reduce the number of speeders or distracted motorists, but they can't sit there all day long. Water and conservation. There is a stream that flows from the hill of the proposed subdivision through my property, down the hillside, and down into Thornell Road. This afternoon, after coming home from work, my husband and I again walked our property. The water is flowing quite brisk down into the land, down where the proposed driveway will land. There's also animals, well, frogs and turtles that reside on the opposite side of Thornell and cross the road. There has been several times coming home from work that I've had to stop and wait for the turtle to cross the road. Several times people have stopped themselves, picked up the turtles, and walked them across the road to our side of the property. I would also like to know if the Conservation Board has visited the proposed site, and if so, who it was and when it was. The scenic road. Thornell is one of the designated scenic roads in this town. The trees that line the road, I am under the understanding, should be preserved as well as the stone wall as part of the scenic road. Will the trees then along the road be cut down in order to install driveways, therefore eliminating part of the scenic road? It is also my understanding that the authority to move or alter trees and stone walls needs prior written consent was transferred from the Planning Board to the Conservation Commission by the town vote in 1974. Wildlife. There are all kinds of wildlife that have been affected or will be affected, among them the New Hampshire protected white cottontail rabbit, the deer, fox, bobcat, and coyote, to name a few of the animals that we have seen in our yard and on the proposed subdivision property as well. As a side issue, I am not able to find a plan for development for this town. Has the planning board a documented plan in place for either a 1-year or a 5-year for properties to be developed? I believe most towns do have such a plan. I am aware that Southampton does have a plan. The reason for my question is that within at least the last 10 years, this town has had a great deal of development going on. And as a result, taxes keep increasing on the homeowners as a result of the increased needs of the community to meet the increased growth of population. The increase in taxes, because of the school system, keeps going up. As we all know, when population increases, so do service needs increase. The roads, Thornell, the police, the fire department also have needs to increase to protect the town, and that also increases our taxes. I submit that if the town does not have a plan in place, I urge them to do so. Although this will not affect anything at this time, it might save those elderly people who are homeowners that might be forced out of their homes because of the increased taxes. I realize this board will more than likely move to accept this subdivision at this time, but as we all know, nothing stays the same. This plan for today, but what is the plan for tomorrow? I also know you cannot predict the future, nor can you make a determination based on what might happen in the future, but forewarned is forearmed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No, for a copy,
Oh,
for the minutes.
excuse me, just one second. Can we make a copy of that for our minutes? We'll give you back your original after, before you go. Thank you. Yes, Mike?
I just want to address one of the concerns you had on your speech there. Road traffic on Thornell, it is a highly cut-through road. I've talked to the police chief in town. We don't have a good reason for this, but it's become very lax. That's a non-truck route. It's been a non-truck route forever. I know. But I've talked to the chief about it, and they're gonna start to enforce that and start to get them to go where they should be going, is down state roads to Peasley. They know that. It's gonna take some work to get that to retool all the truckers' brains, because they cut right across there and they go right up Merrimack Road. They know that. Hopefully, that'll get taken care of.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Ed Batchelor. I live at 42 Thornell Road, which is adjacent to this property. I have a question. First of all, is the lot right beside me considered an existing lot, or is that a new lot?
Can you show me exactly where you live on this?
I live at Pine, so that's...
It might be on the other page.
Right at a 3.5 acre lot.
32, okay, so it's this one.
Okay,
Is this
all right.
lot considered existing, or is it a new lot?
And it's,
I can answer that question. I began my conversation tonight and said that originally that was a subdivided lot came off the farm property. It was merged onto this 40-acre property, 40-plus acre property in 2017. So at that point in time, it was merged. It was not a separate lot. Now we're trying to make it back to the way it was as a separate lot.
Would it be considered an pre-existing lot, or would it be part of a new lot? You mentioned a lot line adjustment to move the line back to where,
It was merged onto the property, and it's gonna be reestablished as the same lot as it was before. So it's not a lot now, because it was merged onto this 40-plus acre lot. It was merged, so it isn't a lot at this time. We're making it a lot.
well, it's one big one.
Right.
Right.
Hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my question as well is based on drainage. And, you know, as you know, the town has quite an investment in the farm that we own. They put $200,000, the farm and the state put $200,000 into preserving the farm for its scenic beauty. And it's our obligation to continue on this, and we're mandated by the town and by the state to do that, to keep it looking like a farm. Now, as you may not know, we operate a small organic vegetable farming business on the farm property here. And I do use that pond as irrigation for my crops. And I can assure you that all the water off that hill does not cross the street. Much of it comes down and flows through the pond and continues on down through the wet area over to Quaker Grove, where it joins on the back end of the farm. It joins in where there's a natural spring there that I use I pump to water my cattle. So it's, you know, the water is used for farming purposes. And I need to be assured that there's not going to be runoff from homes that are using, whether it's herbicides, or whether it's pesticides or Roundup or whatever people use nowadays, and sometimes knowingly or not, using too much of it, and it ends up in the water, in the drainage system, and then it ends up in my pond, which consequently would end up on my crops, which I'm trying to raise organically, and much of it is not organic based to it. So that's one of my concerns. And another concern is the view. It is a scenic road, and Forrest was very proud of the farm, as many of you knew Forrest. And one thing that I see is the driveway on the adjacent lot. I mean, by the sounds of it, it's going to look like the China wall going up the side of the hill there. I mean, where the slope is, it's steep. And I know that they're going to do their best to prevent erosion, but, you know, what if somebody's up there washing their cars or something, or spraying their lawn, or whatever else they do, and it comes down and that washes right into my pond again. So I'd like to propose that perhaps they can move the driveway on the other side of the lot. That way that would keep that area. It is environmentally sensitive right there, because it's all wetland, and it's all coming down off the hill, whether it's from the Vincent's property or the front or the back, or even down the side of the road. There's a lot of water there. I'd like some assurance. The reason I was asking if it was a pre-existing lot, in that, from what I heard here today, you could apply some type of a guarantee that it was an impact fee, because they could have an impact on that pond. And I'd like to recommend that perhaps a pre-test could be done on the water in the pond, just to establish a baseline of what is in the water. And if there's no Roundup or anything in it, that's great. And I trust it would not be. But then, later on down the line, if we have a test and we find that there is pollutants in there that would go against organic farming, that we may be able to do something about it at that point. But I think it's important that we establish a baseline for the quality of the water currently. That's what I have to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
But the road agent's telling us they're gonna put drainage in, but that's exactly where it's going, to that farmer's property, at the side there. And just like it was, I think we're missing the conservation's point over here.
Well, yeah,
I don't know if we can move forward on this. I mean, this is a big impact on them.
So you have taken jurisdiction. Legally, you have 65 days to make a decision. So if you feel that the Conservation Commission's comments are essential to this, you can certainly seek them out, and you have adequate time to be able to do that.
That's
I
a
agree.
highly active,
Right.
wildlife area.
Right.
For both,
I
little
agree.
things and big things.
Right.
I just want to clarify, because I don't know if I've got Ziggy wrong or you wrong. Which pond is it going, which pond do you think it's going to?
From the pond that's on my land. It comes down.
Which is what, Horace's? That was his land, right? Most of that water through drainage won't go that way.
No, it comes off the hill on my side.
The watershed itself will, but the groundwater that we're dealing with won't go that way.
Well, there's something coming down into the pond, it kind of
Oh, yeah. Some of it will go there, but you said the drainage we're doing will not go into that pond.
I'm more concerned with the runoff to the driveway.
The watershed itself, off surface water. Yeah, okay. Well, unfortunately, I'm dealing with the groundwater.
Can I ask Quintel a question?
Yes, go ahead, Roger.
Mr. Quintel, can you come to the, they've raised a couple of issues that I'd like clarification. One, the first woman was talking about a stream that I don't see on the plan. Is there, do you know when?
The high-intensity map, obviously, you're gonna get surface water runoff this time of the year with snow melt and rain, and there is probably areas where you do get channelized, but it dries up enough so that it doesn't affect the soil. That's surface runoff. Oftentimes, you'll get surface runoff like that, where it'll appear like a river going over the surface of the land. But we had a soil scientist go out there and look at the soils and auger into the soils to determine whether it's wetlands, poorly drained soils, or whatnot. And that's what really the regulations point toward, is a high-intensity map based on the soils, not on the surface runoff. So there is going to be streams that run down through there. There's anything that comes off a hill that comes down, and it channelizes, gets into the swale, and runs down the edge of the road. The problem with the road, it never had proper drainage underneath. It doesn't have good gravel underneath, so any water that comes down, if it doesn't get into the swale and go down through the swale, it permeates underground, gets underneath the road, freezes and breaks the road up. And we all understand that. The road agent is doing a great job and understands how this road needs to be fixed, and we need to intercept that groundwater, and that's what we talked about putting the catch basin and putting a pipe down 2 to 3 feet and capturing that water with perforated pipe and crushed stone to capture the water before it gets underneath the road. And we're looking at doing that just in this section here, so that when he does his work from the crest of the hill down through there, they can tie into it. Some of that's going to be directed across the street before it gets down to the pond down here. Because there's a culvert down in here that goes down, it's going to tie into that and go across the street where it does now. So there's not a lot that comes off the road here that goes into this pond. And then this gentleman's concerned about his pond here. We have erosion, sediment control here, and erosion addressed in the statement here, and the concern that was addressed by the road agent about that slope being filled and stabilized.
Now,
I don't know if that answers your question.
because there's a lot of contour lines, I can't quite follow them. From the, in the area of the leach field. Yeah,
There's nothing there.
no, but now going that way, which way is the hill going? Is the water from there gonna sort of flow down into?
Flow down there.
It's gonna flow that way, so that's near the crest of the,
This is coming up toward the crest of the hill, yes. The crest of the hill continues up and goes up into heat. This is really the top.
so that it is all sort of downhill
Also, down
toward,
this way, this is what a watershed would be from
Yeah.
the pond up. You would capture the water all the way up through.
okay, so all of that surface runoff would run towards his pond.
It does, yes.
Okay.
It always has, and it
Yeah.
always will be. Anybody that's living up here, their house is gonna be up here. I don't believe that they're gonna be wanting to maintain and mow the slope.
Right.
It's not the type of thing that they would do. But it does have to be constructed and stabilized, and that's what the county engineer has told us, that it has to be done in the dry time of the year, and if it's any type of wetness, it has to be
But
a
it will-
jute mat or some sort of a mat put down so that grass can grow and stabilize the slope so it won't have any runoff to the pond. And I don't believe they would have any reason to over-fertilize or put any pesticides out through there like that. But I understand his concern.
Okay, I just wanted to
No
make sure,
different- no
make sure I
different
understood
than
that.
Anybody developing along a property that has a pond or whatever, that, understandably, there'd be a concern.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Contrary to what you're saying,
Yep.
contrary to what he is saying, the ditch has been, or drainage comes down from on my land, has been there since we bought the property back in 2005. It was there when it was built. The homeowner prior to us had put the ditch in, which drains behind our house and down the land, which is a slope like this, and down into the pond where Ed is talking. Any type of septic system runoff is going to flow down into that pond. Again, we walked the land today. The water is flowing as it always does. Unless we have an extremely dry summer, the water is flowing. Our land is clay. It doesn't absorb the water. It runs off. There's wetland that borders where their proposed proposed land is up in the back here. That's all wet up in there. It's been wet. The trees are dead there. If the trees were alive, you'd know it wasn't so, but it is.
Thank you. Jen, did you have something that you wanted to say? No?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Yes, sir?
Hi, I'm Mark Trulson, 21 Thornell Road. I do have a question. Is the proposed common driveway directly across from my driveway at 21 Thornell? Can you help me with that? Because I'm not good with the map.
No.
Oh, good, well,
It's not directly.
oh, no.
Here,
right,
this looks like his right there.
Right.
It's over.
What, like 50 feet?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, thank you. So we too have quite a bad water problem on our property. We too walk the property regularly, and we have a little stream, I don't know if it's on the plan, but it flows almost year-round, and it's flowing right now. In fact, I went through and we muck it regularly to keep it moving. We have free-range chickens and goats, and we farm a little bit, not big farm, but a little bit. And we're very concerned about the water. The water is so bad off that hill that it goes up and over the swale, over the road sometimes, and then onto our property, and there's been erosion, and we've had to make repairs numerous times. There's a natural spring that comes right down off the hill, right underneath our driveway, and we were able to corral that and put a French drain in a few years back to try to mitigate the problems, but our property is wet all the time. There's also the culvert to the left of our property that failed. Everybody knows about that. We all drove over that for what seemed like months, and if I'm not mistaken, there was quite a bit of water after they repaired it, and it had to be redone. That sure seems to be what happened. The point being is that there's a lot of water on the property, and so we're certainly concerned about that. And I too am looking for assurances that there will not be further problems either with chemical runoff or lots of water making the problem that we already have worse. And there certainly is a safety issue. We're right on that curve. Oh my God, is it dangerous. Honestly, we would never let our children ride bikes or even walk that road until they were much older. It is so dangerous. And I'm very concerned that there's going to be a driveway right across from my road. That's not a great place to put it. The road is a scenic road, so we're not supposed to be cutting trees. I don't know what was going on, but 3 weeks ago at sunset, in the middle of one of our two big storms, there was a piece of equipment up there knocking trees down. Does anybody know what that was about? My wife heard the noise. What was going on there, Dennis? It seemed a little,
When we do a subdivision, we have to do test pits in the 4K area. So we had to go out there, came down to the top of the hill, dug test pits, evaluate the soils. They were witnessed by the health officer, Bob Liverone, and immediately backfilled right after that, so.
yeah, it was just a little concerning because it was basically in the dark in the middle of a snowstorm. There were two men and like a small legged bobcat. We went out there in the dark. It was pretty suspicious, and my wife went out and said, "What's going on?" And the person was so kind, he gave my wife the middle finger. You know, how nice is that? So we were a little suspicious, to be honest with you. Well, it couldn't have been you then, right? Yeah. But it was a bit concerning, is all I'm saying. So those are my main points. I'm concerned about safety, the water runoff and the erosion, and the chemical issues. And again, I'm looking for assurances that that's not going to be a problem. You know, they're hopefully legitimate concerns.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Jeffrey Goucher. I live at number 11. And one of my concerns is naturally the drainage. There was a ton of water that comes off that hill. And if you look at the swales down the side of the road, they not only shed the water, but they hold the water. And if you look at the pavement on the side of the road, it's all busting in towards them swales. So that whole side of that road is pretty soft. So, I mean, if you allow more drainage to come into them, it's not gonna handle it. And when he says he's gonna put in a catch basin with stone perforated pipe, that's only gonna handle so much water, and then it's just gonna come out of the ground and do the same old thing. So you might wanna look at all that stuff, putting in a really expensive road. And some of the drainage is gonna go across the road, which you have vernal pools. You have all kinds of wildlife, cranberry bogs, stuff like that, so it's gonna impact all that. And definitely the water's gonna be a problem.
Thank you. Mr. Favero?
Yeah, listen, I think everybody in this road will agree the water's a huge problem coming off that hill. There isn't anybody here that won't agree with that. What we started by talking, and I'm talking with Dennis about it and the town engineer, there won't be any situation where there's a catch basin put in and that thing like daylights or goes into a dry well, because it won't survive. That's why the drainage system we're gonna design with the town engineer captures all that water. And you're right, there's one, two, I think there's 3 culvert crossings right now. Yeah, one wildlife went in there and clogged it, and, you know, it was really a temporary repair. It's not a permanent. The new drainage system that'll be engineered should adequately, and I'm gonna kind of normal water flow. I mean, back the Mother's Day flood that we had, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, significant amount of water. You know, situations like that, we'll calculate, but there will be conditions where, no matter how much we calculate it, if Mother Nature's really gonna dump on us, you will only catch so much. But normal conditions, whatever we design, should take whatever they're putting in into our system and get rid of it. And whatever, yeah.
Excuse me.
It wasn't,
Excuse me. Don't
You're gonna
have a
talk.
conversation back
Come
and
up to
forth,
the-
please. That's all
all
right.
right, no, I'll
No,
go
you
back
can,
up.
you can,
No,
you can
I know what you're talking
explain.
about. So I'm gonna explain it that, yeah, the repair that was done was a repair mostly for slope stabilization. It really wasn't for drainage. There's never been any drainage in there. There's no drainage as we speak. And what that gentleman just brought up, we've all seen. That whole side of the road is super saturated. So we know going into this, we've got to do a pretty elaborate drainage system to gather all that, capture it, and get rid of it. All right?
When you say we, the town are gonna do it, or they're gonna pick up the tab for this drainage since it's their project that's gonna inundate the road? I mean,
I'm not gonna get into that debate,
Well, I mean-
and here's why, and fair's fair. If they were putting in 15 houses, if they were putting in a full subdevelopment, I would stand here and tell you, under a NEPA account or something like that, they would be responsible for the lion's share of reconstructing that road. That's not the case. That's not what we're being told the case, so I'm going with what we're being told. So right now, it's 3 houses, right? Is that what's going in there? 3 houses. Listen, I'd love to stand here and go, somebody else will pay for it other than the town. That's not the reality. It just isn't. It needs to be done. The road is, it's never had drainage in it. Never, ever had drainage in it. So we, and I'm gonna say we as in the town, have to reconstruct that road and make it so it'll survive years and years and years, not 5 years or not a small duration. So we're gonna have to invest the money in it and rebuild that road for safety and everything else that goes along with it.
but it's called a scenic road.
It is a scenic road.
It's still gonna be a scenic road, but it's gonna be a lot wider, right?
No, we really won't. There'll be areas we'll make it wider. I mean, there's one area that bumps out down towards Horace's, where your property is now. The catch basin is actually out in the pavement area. So there's a drainage swale that stops and it bumps out and goes around. Town, go ahead. Your house? That's in front of your house. We'll probably have more of a conversation at a later date other than tonight. Because that swale it takes the water and throws it back out onto the road. So I can't stand here and tell you until I'm done doing this all with the town engineer. We might have to plead in front of conservation and everybody else that's involved in this thing and kind of get that to go so it's a normal swale and not out and back around the road and back in.
Right.
But that's a conversation for another night, not tonight.
Okay. Mr. Bavera was talking about road construction that's needing to be happening now, has nothing to do with what they want to do. He's going to be doing that road.
I don't know when they're doing this.
Right, he's going to be doing this road construction anyway, so that is up to the
And then
town.
they're gonna put the houses in,
Yep.
their drainage is gonna be added to that?
Well, that's why the plan has drainage on it.
Correct. And that's what Denny and I are talking about with the town engineer.
Right, so, okay. Do we have any other abutters that would like to say anything? No, you need to come back up to the mic, I'm sorry. What was your name again, sir?
Jeffrey Gelger.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, there was a question asked earlier about if anybody has walked the site and looked at all these issues.
I
Anybody from the
believe
planning board?
I believe that we're leading towards some input from conservation, which we have not had yet. Yes, Ms.
I actually, partially based on a lot of the comments, was going to recommend you guys consider a site walk. I think you should also get input from the Conservation Commission, but you certainly can schedule a site walk,
I think that'd be a great idea before any
which
decisions
would be
are
open to
made.
the public, just as a,
Yeah,
if it were-
I think I would like to do that in conjunction with conservation.
you could
I think
certainly
that would be
request that
good.
of them.
That'd be a great idea.
Anybody else? No, okay.
I've got another question
Oh.
for Mr. Quintel. A lot of people have been talking about the extra water that is going to be generated from this project. Do you have an estimate of how much impervious surface that you will be adding?
I can't tell you exactly, but it's just a standard house and the driveways. The thing about a house, a project like this is typically what we look at is the peak rate of runoff, which causes erosion. So when we do stormwater drainage analysis, we talk about mitigating the peak rate of runoff after development so that you wind up being equal to or less than pre-development. So in a case like this with a watershed, that's a huge watershed from the top of the hill coming down, the amount of water that comes down onto the ground, if anything gets developed down at the bottom, that's gonna have impervious surface, it's gonna run off quicker. So by the time the rest of this water comes down and the main portion of the storm water comes down the slope, any impacts from this are gonna be gone. So the peak rate of runoff on the downslope from a watershed are almost negligible compared to if it was developed up on the slope and has the runoff at the same time, the time that it gets down to the point of analysis. If it's at the same time, the peak would be more. But in a case like this, where the homes and the driveways are gonna be built down at the bottom of the slope, any of that water is gonna be down and gone before the peak runoff from this, because it takes a little bit longer time to get down from here to there.
But if you
I
had
don't
a
know if that
long
answers-
event, they would sort
Right,
of,
yeah, you're talking about a 24-hour event where in this area of the country, you get a little bit of rain to start off from, and then so you get some absorption into the ground, and then you start to get some runoff. And then during the peak of a storm event, you get the most runoff, and then it slowly tapers off once the storm dissipates. So within 24 hours, you get a peak rate of runoff.
So you're saying the lot by Forest Reynolds is gonna be where the river is?
No, I'm not saying that, because what happens here with this water that goes down the swale, goes underneath this driveway, and then cuts across this culvert that goes across here. And so, any water that comes down off of this property and this property would run down the edge of the road and get down into the wetlands down at the bottom of the slope. So where we're developing here is separate from this. So they're two separate points of analysis. One would be down here where it crosses the road, the other one would be down here coming down the street here. So it's separate from what we're developing.
So that the large area that's not being developed at all is still going to be absorbing the way it is right now, and the only impact is going to be these new little lots.
Yeah, and most of that we talked about, where the limit of the high-intensity map and the topo, that all runs southerly. That all runs toward the post office, let's say, in that direction. This is the peak of the hill. That all runs this way. That's all downslope that way. This is all run this way. When you look at it, you're really only looking at this part here as watershed coming off the top of the hill.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any more, oh, you had something? Okay. Yeah, sure.
My name's Craig Walker. I'm at, for your purposes, I'm at 26 Quaker Street. For everybody who doesn't know where that is, look for the drainage easement in Quaker Grove. Goes through my yard. Everybody thinks I have a nice, pretty little stream. I got a footbridge over it. It's a drainage easement. My house has been dry for 20, 25 years, until 2 years ago. Something happened. I don't know what. My basement flooded. It's a small little split. It's not a fancy house. I live in the greatest neighborhood in town because of my neighbors. We're not fancy. The neighborhood isn't one of the fanciest ones in town. You guys all know that. My family room is in my basement. It was in my basement. My daughter's bedroom is in my basement now because I put it back into the basement. So is the
Can I
laundry room.
ask you to speak just a little bit louder, please, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I wound up 2 years ago replacing everything in my basement. Now, it's not the board's fault. It's not their fault. But something changed, and that water came into Quaker Grove. I never got flooding before, and then I got flooded 3 times since then. Something's different. I encourage you guys to walk this property, and I think it's great, especially for him, that you're worried about the road, right? We can't have the road, we can't have Thornell washed away. Can't put the effort into it and lose it. But right now, inside Quaker, that road's buckling. It's been pretty good. It's nowhere near, nothing is as bad as Thornell. Thornell, you guys know, it's like the surface of the moon. I don't even know how people speed down that road. You gotta have a Hummer if you wanna go down that road fast. Nobody should be doing it in a Mustang. You're gonna destroy your car. But something's different. I don't know what it is, but something changed. 25 years of dry basement. And then maybe 23. and something happened. We are getting a ton of water. So when I heard about this, I went, hold on. I mean, I don't want to stop somebody from being able to put up a garage. I don't want to stop somebody from being able to separate their lot and build a house. I'm not that guy. I got great neighbors. We got great people in this town. But do me a favor, please. Just don't just be concerned with where the water's going down Thornell. Look around that whole land. Because it's only going to come back to you guys again if you guys are dealing with fixing Quaker Street. I got a ton of water coming in. I don't know what happened, but something's different.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I had one more thought. We hear water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. You know, the water supply in my neighborhood is the potable water. They're deep wells, low-producing wells. My well's approximately 400 feet deep, and I believe I get 2 gallons a minute on it. And the house across the street, Mark Schiller's house, is a similar well, and he wanted to water his garden, and his house well wouldn't do it, so he had to drill another well. I think they went down 600 feet with that and hit similar amounts of water. You know, I'm not sure the other folks how deep their wells are and what they produce, but there is not a lot of water for drinking in the area.
Thank you. Okay.
You want to make a motion on the sidewalk or no?
Yeah, I do, don't you think? I think we need to, I think we need to contact Conservation and see if we can schedule a site walk, and we can't set a date until we contact with Conservation to see when they could do that.
I think that you basically have a couple of if you want to do a site walk, if you absolutely want to do it with Conservation, then I would recommend continuing this application at least 2 weeks so that by then we can maybe come up with a date.
Okay,
Or schedule a site walk and request Conservation come, or at least request their comments. They can always do their own site walk if they were to choose
right,
and provide comments. I realize it would be better if it was done together,
right.
but I would suggest you try, if possible, to have the site walk. If you can actually have your road agent also attend in addition to the applicants.
Well,
Okay,
if we continue, we cannot continue for 2 weeks. In two weeks, we have the election.
So it'll be 4
we'll be
weeks.
continuing for 4 weeks.
So
okay.
given that, I would recommend you actually schedule a site walk for before that time period,
Before the 4 week.
before the 4 weeks.
I don't know that we could actually do this without any coordination right
Well,
now, but we can make sure that it gets done before the next meeting.
I think.
No,
my-
you
my-
can't do it before the next, you have to schedule the site walk. You would have to continue to the site walk this evening. You can't schedule it in between without re-noticing everybody. So if you want to do a site walk before your next meeting,
Okay,
you need to schedule it tonight.
okay.
Can the Conservation can do a site walk without noticing? I mean, it's just a public, without sending certified letters.
Technically, the Conservation Commission would only be allowed to go onto the site without the planning board with the property owner's permission,
Right,
because they have no legal reason to be there.
Right.
Because they're not reviewing an application as you are. It's a different means. You're requesting their input. They can come to your site walk, though.
Okay, because there was a lot of questions about the trees and,
but if they had a,
Scenic road
if they
and
had a site walk, we could also attend as members of the public.
You could, I would recommend not doing that as a quorum of the planning board.
right. Okay.
My suggestion is you guys schedule a site walk and request the Conservation Commission or members attend.
All right. Do you have a calendar available? Let's go. Oh, okay, you have a calendar available.
There's February. That's why I had pulled it out before.
Okay.
What are you looking for?
I don't know,
And-
we have an awful lot of stuff going on in
Oh, I
February.
do, but that's not.
No, I mean, talking about the
Yeah,
elections and the
right. Well,
primaries and stuff.
and I think that's
Suggest a
one of the
Sunday.
problems with scheduling it tonight. There's several of the regular board members who aren't here.
That's all right. We'll do that and get whoever can go to go. When is that next meeting that we are actually
The
going to have?
25th
The 25th of February?
of February. Is
That's our
our
next meeting.
Our next regular meeting is the
Okay.
25th of February.
It would also be beneficial to see things without snow cover, which in the next week or so you may have the opportunity to do.
Okay,
That's Sunday.
Sunday?
What?
We could do it on a Sunday.
I'm available.
Okay. What, would you be available?
Yes.
Okay. What date?
I don't know, which one do you want?
I don't know. I have to look at the calendar here.
2/9/16/23.
Forget two.
What?
Forget two.
It's
Yeah,
Super Bowl?
we could do it during the Super Bowl.
I don't think so.
Okay, the 9th or the 16th would probably be the,
How about the 9th? Sunday the 9th?
does that work for the applicant? And
Mr. Perero, can he make it at that time?
I don't know, we'll find out.
It's okay. What time?
What,
10.
2 o'clock? 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning? What time do you want to do it?
I'd rather have
Morning.
2 rather than 10.
Okay, 2 PM. Would you be available, Mike?
To go to the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make myself available to go on a
2
sidewalk.
PM.
I missed a part of the equation. The reason for the sidewalk is what again? What are we looking for? What is the,
We're going to look to see just exactly what's there, you know.
Trees?
The trees, the contour of the land,
oh, okay.
where the
Just an
streams are
overall feel.
going down.
Just an overall feel, what it looks like?
Correct,
Okay.
I think understanding the drainage and your part of that may be helpful for folks.
right.
Well, okay, for guys, I mean, I get the drainage, but I'll go on the sidewalk, I mean, you know, and I know the gentleman brought up Quaker. I know there's some impact that'll come to Quaker, but I will tell you, on number 12, it was either 12 or 19 Quaker, 5 or 6 years ago, I had to do a under-drain system there, because water kept leaching out of the hill. So I don't, you're saying it just started, but there's always been a lot of water over there.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you, Dennis. We can't have cross conversations, so,
We should do this at a round
no,
table,
so
because it
come
works
in,
better.
tell the board what's going on, but
So, to address his thing, so he was speaking to where I am and what's going on, and I think you're speaking to the house that had the one-car under garage that's always flooded. Used to
okay.
always
he's
be
up
flooded.
on the
Need-
hill, but-
just- Sir, you need to speak into the microphone. Talk to me, and then he's hearing what you're saying.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So, yeah, I'm down the end of the neighborhood. I'm right behind this hill, up against this hill.
Okay.
I'm not partway down the road. But what he was speaking to is some of the houses as we come in, there's always been a lot of water. But the drainage in Quaker has been fantastic for 20 years. Obviously, long before that, going back to my other neighbors that have been there since '69, they haven't had a problem, but they're on a hill. But the drainage there has always worked great. We get tons of water. And one thing that, they're talking about the amount of rain that comes down. Some of the worst stuff we have for water for houses is when you get to the end of the winter. We wind up with a ton of snow, and then frozen ground, and then a rainstorm. That's the challenge, especially in Quaker. Everybody in the world that has snow experiences that, but in Quaker, it hits that drainage hard. For 20 years, I just watched it go through the easement like a little river, and everything's great. My property's not flooded. And then, like I say, 2 years ago, something changed,
Okay,
and we got flooded.
all
Very
right,
different.
thank you.
And I'll address that and look at it that, my sense is, his issue is a different issue.
Yeah.
But we'll look at it overall. I think you're having a problem with drainage relief, not drainage coming down from the
26
hill.
Quaker.
I think something's choking it up. That would be my guess.
Sir, what is your name again? You're at 26 Quaker, correct?
Yes, I am. Craig Walker.
Craig Moore, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Craig Walker, okay, thank you. Yes,
So, regarding the site walk, typically when a scheduled site walk is determined during the wintertime, there's an alternate snow, weather alternative, or some method of notifying people if it's not going to happen because of weather. So that's something that maybe you should talk about, that if the
Oh, you mean
weather
like
is
a
not good.
snow date?
Have a snow date, have some method of being able to postpone the site walk, and how would we know that that was happening?
Okay,
Well, I think, I would suggest that we could do the next Sunday as a alternate date.
all right.
In terms of notification, they're gonna have to post a meeting for the site walk, so that there will be a posting of the agenda on the town website. And if it's canceled, that should get, well, that, I think, I guess either that or, can they call the planning board office or the?
Not on a Sunday. If it's canceled because of inclement weather,
Yeah,
I have no way of accessing the town website
okay.
other than from the office.
Oh, okay.
Can you look at your calendar again and
Yep.
tell me what the following Sunday is?
Well, if that,
Should be
the one we
16th.
have is, lost my date.
16th?
Yes, 7 and 9, 16.
Okay, so, okay.
Can I recommend, if you think you might have to cancel due to inclement weather, you make that call by Friday, so it could be put on the town website?
During that time.
Okay,
Or actually by Saturday.
yeah,
Or Saturday?
okay. All right. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a
Can post
site
it on
walk
Saturday.
on Sunday, the 9th at 2 PM. We're going to see if Conservation can join us, and Mr. Pavero. Snow date, if there's a blizzard, which it could happen, will be the 16th, which is the following Sunday, same time. Is that okay with you? Okay.
And site walks are open to the public, but the planning board can't make any decisions at the site walk.
Right, what we do is we go and observe. We're not really making any decisions then. We're just
We
looking
would
at
just
the...
request also that everybody stays together, not scatter out through the
Oh,
property.
absolutely, absolutely.
And is there any way, like, if there's gonna be a storm or something, that we could be notified, like, say, on a Friday or something like that, that it might be postponed, or is there that type of a
I only
process?
have a better addresses. I don't have telephone numbers. And if you want, I'll run out back at a pad and people can leave their telephone numbers.
That would be good.
Okay, why don't you do that? Hold on just a second. We're going to get some telephone numbers so that in case we have to change this, we can call you and let you know. So we'll put it over there on the table, and you can put your name and your phone number on your way out, and that way we'll contact you and let you know if we have to reschedule it to the 16th
be good, wouldn't
from
you
the
think?
9th.
This time of the year, it's just difficult. I mean, you know, you just never know what the weather's gonna
You're
do.
right.
And that's couple weeks down the road, and we just like everybody to be safe and not drive out there when it's,
Okay.
if it gets postponed, that's all.
Okay, I guess we're passing it around. Okay, that's good. Okay, so would you like to make a motion for the site walk?
I make a motion that we schedule a site walk for February 9th at 2 PM with a snow date of February 16th, and to invite the Conservation Commission to attend, and also that if they cannot attend, ask them to do their own so that they can give us their input.
Do I have a second for that? No.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Did you get all of that, Jim?
Do you want all of that in the motion, or do you just want to?
No, he wants it all in the motion. I have it.
Yeah,
for conservation.
I actually do have it.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in
Seconded.
favor?
All right.
Thank you, unanimous.
Who seconded
Ms.
that?
Allen? Mrs. Allen?
Are we all done for tonight?
You need to continue this to
Yeah, that's what
your,
I'm saying, that's what, I was just asking, are we done getting input for tonight?
I think we
Anybody
are.
else have anything?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion that we continue the public hearing till February 25th?
February 9th.
No, that's
public hearings.
That's the day before, February 9th is the,
Like,
oh. Yeah, but we're not going to vote on February 9th for anything.
No, you're continuing to the next normal planning board meeting on the 25th of February.
Right,
Fifth, right. 25, right? Yeah.
right, yeah, because the site walk is not,
It's an extension of the public hearing, but it is not a continuation of the
Right.
public hearing.
there you go.
Okay. Mr. Hamel, do I have a second?
Does he have something to say before we vote?
Nope,
Okay,
just listening.
Okay, all those in favor?
all right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
because I am
Thank
interested in hearing from the conservation, because some of the written notices we got were asking a lot about the trees.
right,
We really
right.
didn't
I am
discuss that
I
tonight.
am too. Okay, so this meeting is, this public hearing is continued to the 25th, and the site walk will be on the 9th with a snow date of the 16th. Okay? So, all right, so we're going to continue. So this portion of the meeting is concluded right now. Ma'am, if we could have your document to just make a quick copy? We'll take a short 5-minute break here. Thank you. let's see.
So they would need to reapply. You should make a motion to that effect. Or you could also continue it, but that is not typical.
Okay. Well, okay, we'll be back in session here at 8:37. So the next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for 125 development for a 4-lot subdivision and lot line adjustment. 6 Puzzle Lane, properties references map 14, block 1, lot 27-3.
And I'm going to recuse myself on this issue.
So I can sort of summarize where things are if you'd like.
Yes.
So you took jurisdiction on November 12th of the application, when you had the joint meeting with the zoning ZBA.
Right.
They requested a continuance at the last planning board meeting and the intermediary meetings. At this point, they have not supplied new information or complete information for their application. So your choices are you can deny the application as incomplete. That is not necessarily denying it on merit, it's just you simply don't have the information necessary to make a decision. Or you can simply deny it and they could potentially waive fees in the future if that's something you'd consider, but they would, if you deny it, have to reapply. And we would start that process over.
I may make. I just want to make one comment regarding something. If you waive the fees, please remember that a butter notice for this application was over $300.
Typically, I'm not saying you should waive fees or not, you would waive fees but still require new abutter notices. That would be you would still require application fees,
Okay.
not noticing fees.
All right.
So it would be a case of he would have to completely reapply.
Correct. Whether you waive the application fees, that's something you could, if it was requested at that time, consider. You wouldn't, it's not being asked for now, you wouldn't give them that waiver of application fees now. You're just saying that they could request it potentially.
So we need to deny the application?
Because so if we deny it, they have to start again.
Correct.
They have to reapply with their application fee and all their abutter notices fee.
Correct.
Question. Point two. Do we have the ability to continue it one more time, mandating new abutter noticing since it's been so long, and give them the option?
I think we have a problem.
Okay,
At this point,
not
you are,
that.
you are past the 65 days.
gotcha. Okay,
So if we were within the 65 days, you could continue whether you had heard from them or not.
okay.
We are beyond that, and they would have had to grant the ability for you to continue past the 65
That's right,
days.
it's the applicant's decision.
It's at that point, it's the applicants, it's actually to protect the applicants
Right.
to their benefit.
Okay,
They haven't done that.
right.
And there were significant changes based on their last application because of their denial of one of the variance requests from the zoning board. That was sort of
Right,
the reason for the joint meeting.
right.
So they did need to provide some additional information for just very basic plan application information.
Well, then, based on that, I think that I'm going to make a motion to deny this application for 125 development for the 4-lot subdivision and lot line adjustment, map 14, block 1, lot 27-3,
Okay.
hang on with it, based on the fact that we didn't get supplied with any new information.
So the application is incomplete.
Do I have a second?
Second.
You're just too quick for me, Mary.
I made the motion, and Ms. Allen.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's unanimous. Thank you.
And my understanding is they are still appealing to the ZBA, and that has not yet been heard.
I
Yes,
think so.
they're scheduled for February 10th for the rehearing. The public notice is out.
Okay, so since we didn't get any information from them, we've denied their application because it's incomplete, and they're gonna have to reapply.
So they are seeking the variances they needed from the zoning board. They've applied for that to be reheard. So that's going to be February
10th?
10th. They would still require subdivision approval from the planning board, which is what the application they just said was incomplete was a subdivision application. They would have to still come back to the planning board with a new application for the subdivision. Abutters would be notified again. So they're still in the zoning board sphere. They'd have to come back to the planning board again.
Can you go up to the podium, please, and tell us
Now,
your
this
name?
application is the application, sorry, my name is Seth Allen, resident of Newton, New Hampshire. My question is, the application submitted on November 12th, this is the one we're discussing. So there are basically four points, three which were granted, one of which was denied, and that's up in front of the ZBA.
Yes, that's the ZBA application.
Okay.
If they are not successful with their appeal, so they got 3 of the variances they requested, and they did not get the 4th lot. So one of the lots was not given the necessary variances.
Okay.
That's what they're seeking, to get overturned and get that variance. They still have to come back to the planning board to legally subdivide those lots. They just can't do it until they get the variances.
Okay.
So if they don't get the variances, the subdivision would be a different application. They could come back for a 3-lot subdivision, not a 4-lot subdivision.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. So, thank you very much.
What's your address?
174 South Main.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, all right. Well, I hope that answered your questions. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's worth waiting.
Okay. Okay. All right, so.
Any other public business?
Hang on, let me find my piece of paper here.
He's looking for agenda?
It is still a public meeting. You're certainly welcome to stay.
Okay.
I want it back, because I'm...
Yeah, okay. So, the planning board has received a letter of a request for reconsideration on the vote that we took on the citizens petition. There is no methodology to have a rehearing on a citizen's petition, and the person asking for it is not a resident and is not the person who implemented the citizen's petition. So he's really not allowed to ask for this, even if it was something that we could do.
Yeah, it's already past the deadline for any public
And
hearing
past the
on any
deadline.
zoning warrant. There is no legal mechanism for a reconsideration on a zoning warrant, whether it be citizen petition or planning board led. There simply is no provisions for how you go about that.
I'd still like to make a couple of comments. In his request, he mentioned me directly and questioned that I did not recuse myself from the discussions about the zoning ordinance change. And basically, if he were here, I would address basically why I did not recuse myself, because this is a zoning ordinance. It's not a site plan or a subdivision request, which in the past for Mr. McDonough's properties I have, because previously I was on the board of directors of the Sergeant Woods Condominium Association, and I am also now no longer on that board. So, and also, if he had had some objections to me making a decision on that ordinance, he should have made them that night and not later.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so the next item we have on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of January 14th.
Second.
That's Ms. Allen and Mr. White.
I have a couple of corrections.
Okay, hang on one second. Let me get them out. Where are my minutes? Just a second. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, on the fifth paragraph, where it says reduce the setback, it says reduce the setback for the commercial zone. It should say light industrial / commercial zone. We're not talking about the commercial zone. And also the third paragraph from the bottom, then it says, Mr. Foote asked if Fitzgerald property on Route 128 was commercially zoned. It says it is. It is not. It is, wait a minute. Oh, no, that is right. Excuse me. I made a mistake. That one is right.
First one this year, huh?
First.
Okay.
That one's fine.
That's, anything else?
Do that right here.
Okay, so, all right. Did we have all right, so we have, could I have a motion to accept the change? Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay, manifest?
First of all, there's the monthly expenditures.
This is the manifest?
No, that's the monthly expenditures for January.
Okay, monthly,
Those are the operating budget.
oh, thank you. It looks different because you changed the form. Okay. $12,068.67, postage for abutter notices, circuit rider contract, RPC dues for 2020, and advertising, 587, yeah, so for a total of $12,068.67. NEPA, total of $2,567.46, which is refund of NEPA for 21 Maple, 24 Whittier, the Courier subdivision, and Heath Street lot line. Do you want individual numbers, or?
What's the Courier?
It's the Currierville subdivision.
Yeah.
So he's got a refund of $709 coming back.
I'm, I'm still new to this, but the
No,
way it
okay.
was explained about the road, I mean, we can't retain any of that money for the.
No,
was
that has,
Is that like part of a bond for the road, or just?
No, that was separate.
the NEPA is money that they give, that the applicants give to us so that we can pay the town engineer or whoever else has to come in and look and do their work. And then when everything's all over, if there's money left over, we have to give it back to them. That's what this is.
All right,
But
thank
that project, we did have a road bond.
Yes, there's a separate road bond. This
Is
has
that,
nothing to do
are we
with that.
still
That's a
holding
separate-
that?
I
Or is that,
believe-
we're still holding the road
I
bond for
believe so. I think
Courier?
I don't know how long it was for after the construction was.
I would have to look at
Yeah,
it.
we'll have to
But
check that.
we're, as far as you know, we're still holding that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, this is the money that's held in the NEPA account.
Okay.
Trying to get that brought up to date and reconciled.
Right.
Move to pay.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Mr. Hamel and Mr. White. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. I'll sign it in a minute. Do we have any correspondence?
I'll sign that.
You received the letter from the abutters.
Oh, yeah, okay. So the only correspondence we had was the letter from this person who couldn't be here. This one?
Yes.
Yes. And so hopefully a lot of this information will be addressed by the Conservation Commission and on our site walk. Okay?
I think their comments should be part of the record of the public hearing. That correspondence
It
should
it
be
will
part of
be
the
added to
record
the
of the
to
public
the
hearing.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to add it to the minutes.
okay.
Yes, that's right. This person. So, all right. Anybody have anything else? No?
Just one.
Oh, yes?
In trying to work out some of the processes that are used in the office here, does anybody object? I am going to start asking developers when they supply labels for the abutter notices to include the map block and lot number on the labels.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Just in case somebody calls and rants and raves,
No, I think
I
they
want to make
should.
sure that I have the board's permission to,
They have to look it up anyway.
Oh, you're talking
no,
about, you're talking about the abutters block?
no,
page.
it would,
Yes.
like this one would all come in under, this is lot 12-2, 22-3. Usually it's a map block and lot number for the project.
Why do you want that on the address?
Because
label?
right at the moment, we are getting so many. At the next meeting, there will be another accessory apartment.
Oh, this is so that you can check them off when they come back in?
Well, not only so that they can check them off, but I get those little green return cards.
Right, that's what I mean.
And I then have to go through a butter list and figure out which one, because they're not.
Okay,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
I think that's a good idea because that's,
And that's instituting, I'm going to start doing things that it won't be the white project. Everything in the back room will be by,
map block and lot.
exactly.
That's the best.
Names will be secondary, but the
Right,
first thing will
yes.
be,
Okay. Yes.
Oh, just one thing that had come up at the last meeting that I thought, I did a little bit of digging through the RPC files. It was the question about what the setbacks have historically been in the light industrial and commercial district.
they all got a copy of it in their.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay.
Well, I think it'd be good for you to go through it
Yeah.
in case someone's watching the videotape.
Sure. So you guys all
Yeah, we
Copies
all
currently.
have that.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
the quick summary is that the light industrial commercial zone was established first in 1986. That's when all of your zoning districts were established. It has always been the same zone, so those have not changed. But as far as the light industrial commercial zone, those have always remained the same since 1986. I do not have every year's zoning ordinance, but I picked several years that were representative of when changes had occurred. So going back to the year 2000, Newton's zoning ordinance said that when any light industrial lot abutted a different zoning district, there was a 200-foot setback. It didn't say structural setback, it just said setback. In 2007, one of the things that was added, and I think it was a clarification, was that that 200-foot setback is a structural setback. So structures are drainage structures, buildings, parking lots, driveways,
Those kind of things.
detention ponds, swales typically not. So that was added. You did not at that point, and you also had from the center line of the street, no building should be within 75 feet. That's been a constant distance as well. So I'm really only focusing on location on lot. There are some other requirements in the light industrial, but that location on lot of the light industrial, as far as what are the setbacks, has always been 200 feet. In the year 2009, so I've got the zoning ordinance for 2010 on here, one of the things that was actually added is that the planning board may require, the 50-foot undisturbed buffer was added. The planning board may require but not exceed up to a 1,500-foot buffer on any side that abuts any other zone. That was added in 2009. So the actual setbacks did not change, but a provision to allow the planning board to require a much bigger setback, which to my knowledge has never been used, was added. Then coming back down to what is your current zoning, this I have 2018, but it is also the current zoning as well. The location on lot was broken up for clarity, but the provisions did not change. So the structural setback, when you abut another district, is still 200 feet for a rear and a side yard setback. There is still a required 50-foot no disturbed buffer. That has been consistent since the inception of this zoning ordinance. I think the reason it was probably originally done back in 1986 is because you have what is often termed as spot zoning in Newton, where the locations that people already had businesses when zoning was first established, you said, okay, this is commercial. The corner of Amesbury Road, where you have 3.5 lots that are in a commercial district, is a really representative one. I think Puzzle Lane, because of the Puzzle Factory originally, and a big open area to the back, was seen as the potential area in town as light industrial commercial uses because it was undeveloped at that point in time. It has always been your light, and at least off of Puzzle Lane, you have other sections, that has always been light industrial commercial. There's a small section of commercial as you get closer to 108. The commercial district's setbacks have always been 50 feet. So since its inception in 1986, 200 feet has always been the setback. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't consider changing it to bigger or smaller, but historically, those have always been the setbacks. A lot of the properties that have come in off of Puzzle Lane have received some variances for reduced setbacks in many cases. At least the one lot that's closest to Walnut Farm very specifically received setback variances so that they are less than 200 feet. I think they're 90 feet on one side and 50 on the other. It's somewhere in that
Something like
ballpark.
So basically, it's been 200 feet since year 2000. That has not changed.
It's been 200 feet since 1986.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't have zoning that goes back before that. I'm sure they're in the town records, but from what I could easily access.
Okay.
So in 2010, the setback between lots in the light industrial zone went from 30 feet to 50 feet.
Yes, that was changed.
So within the light industrial zone,
Right.
the setbacks were increased in 2010.
Correct, within the zone.
Within the zone.
It's that setback of two different districts butting up against each
Right.
other. That has not changed.
And the 200 feet for the light industrial between that and whatever, I mean, then the only other zone it's next to is residential.
It is next to one small commercial parcel,
Okay.
but
But that's because of the type of industry that can happen within that light industrial commercial zone, which is usually not right next to somebody's housing development.
that would,
So that's why the 200 feet was instituted
that
way
would be the
back.
typical reason to have
Right,
that large of a
because of the
buffer.
types of things. It's not just service-oriented, but it's things that could be making a lot of noise or a lot of traffic or whatever. Yeah, okay,
Tire factory.
okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for researching that. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
May have been.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
That's Ms. Allen and Ms.